back to Women Making Moves, where we celebrate the moves that women are making. My name is Amy Ponce, founder of Unlock the Magic Coaching and Healing. I'm joined today with Amy Griffin. Amy helps female-focused businesses turn email lists into their best revenue channel with human-first, empathy-filled strategy. She helps you lead with purpose and sell more, creating customers that keep coming back and emails that run automatically. She has generated tens of millions of revenue for her clients and loves nothing more than helping small businesses grow. Amy, welcome.
Thank you.
You made me laugh when you're like, do you really want to talk about this on a podcast?
Yeah, I'm like geek out about email marketing. Are we sure that other people want to listen to this?
Here's why. So my claim to fame in corporate for 20 years was email and was overarching digital strategy. I got into like end-to-end cross-functional, cross-channel, all of it, but email was really the claim to fame. So when I got into the entrepreneur space, Amy, the amount of things people don't know about email marketing out there in the wild both makes me nervous and I'll explain why in a second, and surprised because it seems like people just jump into it without necessarily understanding the channel and why certain things matter. So I wanted to have this episode with you to keep a really great person and business owner out of email jail and out of blacklisting, but also to share more about responsible email marketing, because it's not only illegal to grab somebody's email address and email them without their consent. It's not only illegal, folks, hear that again, okay? It's also just a frustration because we all get slammed with email. So just stop doing that. And I've had business owners say to me, well, I added them to my email list because they set up time with me. They did not consent to email just because they set up time with you. So I want to find a space to talk to you about all of this without making anyone necessarily wrong, but like having this being like a really robust, enriching hour about email marketing. It's both really great revenue driver, can be, and my ask of everyone is to do it ethically.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope in this day and age that most people are big on consent and understanding that getting into the inbox it's a kind of a personal sacred space. Like you say, you do not want to just be adding people to your list without permission.
But you'd be shocked to know that people don't understand that. And so let's go into it a little bit. The law is can spam, which is you're not able to send a marketing message, which a marketing message versus service emails. Marketing message is like if you're making an ask, service message is like if you are confirming an appointment or something like that. So if you're sending a marketing message, can spam says a couple things. One, you must explicitly consent to receiving said marketing message, and there must be a clear opt-out or unsubscribe. And I'll pause there to get your thoughts on anything else you would share about that, because I don't think a lot of people know that.
Well, I think too, I mean, just from a practicality standpoint, yes, it's illegal and we don't want to do anything illegal, but also it's going to kill your deliverability. So, you're just shooting yourself in the foot anyway. You'll end up in the spam folder, you'll end up in the promo tab, you'll end up, where nobody's going to read your emails anyway. So why start off on the wrong foot?
Yeah. And I love that you brought up deliverability because that's also not a widespread term that people know. So when we say deliverability, it's the email landing where you, as the sender, expect it to go. And if you haven't gotten consent, there's likelihood, to your point, that it's either going to end up in spam or even worse, someone moves it to spam or hits complain, because that tells, let's say Google, that you're not a reputable sender. If someone marks you as a complaint, or unsub isn't as bad, but you want to keep an eye on that, obviously. But then like also just landing in spam or junk. So it all matters.
And it's hard to dig yourself out of that hole once it's been started, once you've been reported, once you've started getting mass unsubscribes. It's very difficult to turn things around. And I mean, honestly, for most businesses, if it isn't, it should be that your email list is your most precious resource, because that's where maybe not most of your sales, but a lot of your sales revenue is coming from. So you definitely don't ever want to start off on the wrong foot and treat it as something that's black hat in any way, shape, or form. So,
I think there's an assumption that because I can reach out and email you just like one to one, that people can do that one to many. And if you have any sort of question about that, come to a person that understands email marketing, deliverability, some of those things, so that we can point you in the right direction. Because one of the things that I will share, a friend of mine who is a well-intentioned entrepreneur didn't warm up her IPs before she sent a massive email. She had spent months building her email list and then hit send on a 5,000 person email. And let me walk through for those who don't know what happened on the back end there. So if you I use the term warm up your IPs. You got to warm up the Googles, the Microsofts, the whomever to show them that you're getting ready to ramp up to send more emails because they're used to seeing you send what in your day-to-day business, like 5 to 10 emails, whatever. So you got to warm them up a little bit. And so this friend, she hit send, didn't warm them up. And I don't know, you might hear other terms like throttle or what drip or what other terms do you use?
Drip's a pretty common
Drip,
one.
yeah. So if you don't drip your emails, then that's a sudden red flag across the board that you sent a spam, you sent to 5,000 people. Well, what happened is her IP address and email address immediately got blacklisted, and she had to end up just like shutting everything down and starting everything brand new. I worked for a Fortune 200. We got blacklisted one time. The amount of money and lobbying it took, like we had lobbyists in Washington that had to prove our credibility as a sender to get us out of blacklist. And I call it email jail. Well, the average entrepreneur doesn't have those resources. So you have to start everything over. So it matters.
And yeah, I mean, the time and effort and money it takes to get 5,000 people onto your list, to have all of that just in an instant gone,
Yeah,
that's heartbreaking. Wow.
right.
Really sad.
And so that fueled me to have more conversations like this, but also coming out of corporate, I created a stay out of email jail workshop for entrepreneurs just to say like, do you know this stuff? And it's not like you have to know GDPR, CCPA, CAN spam, all these laws by the back of your hand. Just be mindful of what does impact your own email list. It's not as simple as just signing people up and emailing them.
Yeah, 110% agree. And I mean, I do think it is surprising, like you say, how even not just email marketing, but marketing in general, that even like a lot of people just they kind of don't understand. Even people that have built large brands, there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding about what marketing is, how it's supposed to be done, what it's supposed to accomplish, etc. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't surprise me that a lot of people don't know this, but it is easy when you're, kind of head down and doing your thing, and I'm surrounded by marketers all the time.
You're in the world, right? And the reason I brought this workshop to life is because I wouldn't know any of this had I not spent my 20 years in corporate and knew, like, for instance, I was the one that got us ready for day one CCPA, the whole enterprise, which was wild. So just understanding more about data, privacy, just basics. I mean, there's ways to learn this without hiring someone, but it's also helpful to have someone in your squad that understands not just email to your point, but just like overarching strategy and how all the channels connect. So, woo, got started hot.
Yeah.
How did you get into email?
Well, I mean, 20 years ago, I was writing phone book ads copy. Kind of had to evolve as the times evolved, writing stuff for direct response infomercials. We don't really do those anymore, I don't think. So email kind of just became the channel that made the most sense and is the most fun for me, at least. It's the most human. You see that direct response kind of thing where, you send an email, people either love it or they hate it. You don't have to wait weeks to see how your campaign's going to perform and see if people are going to take action. So,
Why is email cool? Because a few years ago, we were still trying to figure out, and it was the main revenue driver back then still, but I feel like people are constantly asking, is email still a viable channel? Because we have so many of the, not just the focused and spam inbox by any different IP or email provider, but also it makes it so much easier. Like on an iPhone, you can hit unsubscribe right from the top. And so I feel like both phone carriers and email service providers, ESPs in general, have made it easier for us to not get email.
well, I mean, I think that makes the case for sending quality emails because there is still definitely room. People are in their inboxes constantly. You see that little number and you click on it because I've got mail, there's still that little bit of spark. And when someone's actually looking forward to your email, someone's actually interested in what you've got to say, I mean, there's no better relationship than that. And that's what I love the most about email is that it actually builds a relationship with the reader. Yes, we've got social media. Yeah, we've got TikTok, but for the most part, they're just feeding their brains constant dopamine hits, scrolling, 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 scrolling. With email, you get them to slow down a little bit. You get them to hopefully be interested, actually read what you've got to say, and just go a little bit deeper. It's just a little bit more of a friendship, a relationship.
One of the things that I learned was to do quick hits, like you have 3 seconds above the fold to get their attention. Is that still true? And like, how would you explain that? Because even the things I just said, people are like, what's above the fold?
Yeah, so above the fold is a very old-fashioned term that refers to the newspaper, if anybody remembers those, where it used to fold in half, and the biggest news stories were at the top of the fold. I guess some of us old fogies still use the term above the fold. I'm sure there's another word for it,
Are
but
you calling me an old fogey?
I'm calling myself.
But I said it too. I'm like, I still use above the fold all the time.
So, yeah, really dating ourselves here, I suppose. But yeah, when you first open the email, you've got to have that hook. You've got to have that reason to draw your reader in, whether that's with your graphics, if you're doing more like an e-commerce style email, or your headline, or the first intriguing sentence of a story. You've got to have that draw that pulls people in and makes them want to continue to read further down your email. So you can't clear your throat. I see a lot of throat clearing in emails, where it's like, and they're probably writing the way they would have written an English paper back in high school. You got to punch them and really grab attention in order to make the email effective.
I can't tell you how many emails I get that are just streams of consciousness. And I don't know, depending on who it is, I guess. And that's where it gets a little subjective. It's like, okay, if people are used to that and that's your style, okay, all right. But if it's newer, like for instance, someone brand new to your email list, you might do like a welcome journey of quick hits and here's what to kind of expect. And the other thing I see a lot is that I don't know how many people use super subject lines or pre-headers anymore, but what I see a lot of is subject line, pre-header, then header once you open, like the hero is all the same, just the same words. They should talk to each other, not just repeat each other because we can actually see all three.
Yeah, no, 110% with you on that one. It should be part of the conversation.
Hmm.
Your subject line is obviously the penultimate most
Hmm.
important thing that you,
That gets the open, right?
you got to get people to open the email. Otherwise, the email is pointless. And, unfortunately, we are now seeing in some cases where you're getting the AI overview instead of your preview line, which it
Yeah.
just is really annoying. But it's not in all ESPs. So, keep doing your previews. It should be a little playful extension of the subject line.
Yeah.
And depending on what industry you're in, even having the header, it's almost like sometimes that detracts from the email. People like to get an email that feels like an email from a friend that doesn't have a fancy designed logo or header or any of that. Also, if that's one of the things stopping you from starting your email list, oh, I don't have a designer, I'm not good with all that. Honestly, plain text emails, they deliver better, they perform better. People love to get them and love to read them. So don't let that be a thing that's like holding you back from starting to email people. But if you do want a header and you want that little pretty polish or whatever, definitely do not make it a repeat. The minute you lose people's attention, they're gone and they're not coming back. So if you're repeating your subject line or just the title of the blog post or whatever, the main driver of email at the end of the day is curiosity, and make people curious, make them need to know more, make them wonder what's next instead of just telling them what it is.
What happens, Amy, when you have this gorgeous picture or graphic or video right upon open and it doesn't load?
Yeah, I mean, Exactly. Now people are staring at your alt text, which probably you didn't customize, and they're instantly going to delete it and move
Mhm.
on to the next thing. So,
Because it feels
yep,
spammy.
yep.
I don't want to overcomplicate email to the point where people just like forget it. No, just again, being mindful of some of these things that we're talking about. For me, it's like understanding enough about email and then still having fun with it. Like it's still a fun channel, but it's like there's so many things that matter that I don't think people think about it.
It's hard to strike that balance because we want people to be excited about email. We want people to use email,
Yeah.
but yeah, you want to do it right. Certainly, consent is a big thing, and
Mm.
the design of the email is another big thing. And it doesn't have to be complicated in order to be effective.
People will add me to their email list if we connect on LinkedIn.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's that's not cool. That's not okay.
No, this is what I'm seeing. This is the whole thing. When you're like, really? Do we want to talk about email marketing? Yes, we want to talk email marketing on this show because that's what's happening out in the wild. So what I'm finding out there is that the moment someone comes into someone's orbit, like people will meet someone out at a live event, they'll add them to their email list. Folks, no, there is a literal consent someone must give for you to email them in a marketing fashion. I guess, what would you say? Because we're not saying here, Amy, that if you and I were to meet at a coffee shop, you gave me your email address and I emailed you later on. We're not saying that's illegal. Um, what are we saying?
Yes. I mean, obviously, we still use email to some extent to communicate with each other on a personal level. There are plenty of other ways that you can also communicate with people on a personal level, but email is still something that we use. It's your inbox. I mean, adding someone to your email list after just connecting with them on LinkedIn, I mean, that's like the equivalent of showing up at their house and knocking on their front door, to me. Like that, I mean, you would never do that. That's way invasion of privacy, not cool. Don't do it. Um,
So when does it flip? When does it go from needing consent between, hey, Amy, it was great to meet you today. Here's a new service I'm launching. When would you say the consent flips?
well, I mean, if you were talking with someone in person, when would that transition be appropriate? I think part of the problem is everybody's, oh, email marketing, $42 earned for every dollar you spend, and it's this channel, and it's like a cash register, and you just print
Mm.
money and blah 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 blah. And I think that's maybe contributing to some of this,
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, we want to hype up email. It's a great channel. You need to use it. But let's not use it out of desperation. Let's not use it in a creepy way.
Mhm.
The great thing about email is if someone has consented to hearing from you and then they join your list and they get to know you and they get to like you and they get to trust you, email gives you that opportunity to build that relationship. Email gives you the opportunity to nurture
Mhm.
and you can, work through all sorts of things in your sales process. You can, remove those objections. You can, speak to that type of stuff directly where, you're showing them that you understand who they are and what they want and what they need and what they dream about and what they're scared about. And, have those kinds of conversations. The last thing you want to do is hijack trust and show up unannounced.
Yeah. Mm. So thank you for sharing all of that. And I love getting into all the nuts and bolts. And if you ever have questions of how to approach your email marketing, reach out to Amy or maybe we'll be the Amy squad, whatever,
Yes, yes.
of Amy email squad. So what's coming up for you? What moves are you excited to be making, whether it be in the services you provide or within email marketing or whatever email or whatever you want to talk about? What's coming up for you? What's exciting in the industry?
I think the industry is remaining strong. I know that we're talking about recession and we're talking about volatile markets and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm seeing just across the email lists that I work with. I'm seeing very strong indicators that people are still buying, people are still excited to open emails, even reply to emails. You write a good email, someone replies, not only is that deepening the relationship, but that's improving your deliverability. That's telling the powers that be that yes, you're sending good emails and people want to hear from you. So that's another important thing to consider, you know. Are you asking people what's going on in their lives too? This isn't just a soapbox for you to get up on and, you know, just talk, 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 talk. It's a conversation, as all good sales processes should be. From what I've experienced, I feel like people are more cognizant of consent than they used to be, which I think is a great thing. Maybe my view is a little bit sheltered on that because I'm not hearing the same thing from you. So I guess it depends on, like I said, I'm in marketing, surrounded by marketers, and marketers are actually talking about that,
Yeah,
which
we all know.
which is something that I would say up until a couple of years ago, nobody was talking about that. Nobody was really seeming like they were concerned. It was all about the biggest sales, the highest conversion, the quickest, blah, 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 blah. People are, to my mind, are starting to come around to the fact that, okay, maybe people aren't just walking cash registers and maybe we need to actually do some nurturing here and actually build some relationship and seeing that it actually pays off financially as well. So it's a very exciting time, I think, and still a great time to be mailing people, to be building your list, to be starting your list, all of that.
I
Um,
think it is too, especially in this time and place where our voices, our content creators, business owners, whomever is out there creating any content or service for the world, product, our voices are being narrated for us based on algorithms or like how different things are happening. And I'll give you an example. Even on LinkedIn, where I promote Women Making Moves, the show a lot, women and woman are considered now DEI words and are filtered out of algorithms. So that's the kind of real life challenges that would behoove us to create our own ecosystems, such as email and like the show and also website. Being in charge of your own narrative as much as possible is really important and exciting. So we're moving through it. I don't like to dwell on what's not going right. It's like, okay, we hit something, let's pivot, let's noodle, let's creative test, let's do something differently so that we can feel into what does feel good. Because again, dwelling on what's not working is energetically sending a block out into the universe for who's trying to find you. So I want to go to a post that you made actually today, and I was going to ask about this anyway, so it's perfect. Your thoughts on newsletters and blogs? Blogs are dead, but you disagree with that.
I do disagree with that.
So if you could tell us about blog and newsletter versus and or together, and also what's the difference between working with each of them and relating to email to get that word out.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really, really great point in the whole algorithm driven world that we live in. You are not in control of what you see on TikTok. You're not in control of what you see on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, any of it. It is all driven by what the algorithm thinks is going to keep you on that app longer. So they feed you what they think is going to make you mad or what you think you're going to agree with. There's not a whole lot of in between. And having that personal ecosystem that you own on your own ground, because that's the other thing, the algorithm can change in an instant and everything that you've built could be gone. I've had clients that got deplatformed after having hundreds of thousands of followers for saying the word woman, you know, not that bad, but you know, there has been a long history and email is one place because I work a lot with women's health and wellness providers and it's always been very, very hairy. Even as a medical professional, you can't use anatomically correct words for women's bodies or you're going straight to spam. So there is still a little bit of that policing going on, but for the most part, as long as you can get people from email to your blog, because ultimately the email is a bridge. The email is a bridge to either the sales page for the product or product description or a Google Doc that you made for your coaching program or what have you. A blog creates a nice little opportunity for those people that really like a little bit more education. They are interested, but they need a little bit more information. They need a little bit more understanding of why this is important to them and why they should pull the trigger. And blogs still do a really great job of that. And if you do them right and you inject some long tail keywords into them and make them, maybe not, you're not going to start generating hundreds of thousands of views off of this one blog post, but the consistency adds up over time. And going after those long tail keywords that you can actually rank on page one of Google for, that's still really, really valuable. And the LLMs that everybody's using now, the chat GPTs and the perplexities and all that, they're still pulling their information from Google to some extent. So, they're still looking for those trust signals that Google says is important. Research, backing your stuff up by links to other credible websites. And it's a really easy way to build the authority of your website cumulatively. So, especially if you have a big list and you're driving traffic every week from your email to your blog, you're sending those trust signals. You're telling Google, you're telling the LLMs that this is important information. People trust it, people read it. I mean, I see great results in using blogs as a little mini sales page slash SEO builder. And I think a lot of businesses discount blogs and they kind of writing it off and they're kind of running off in another direction. And from what I'm seeing, I think that's a mistake. It's a very inexpensive, I won't say easy, because, writing a blog, can be time consuming and the research and making it worth reading and putting in the keywords and all that. It's not instant, but it's still a really great channel. And I hate to see people discounting them just because of misconceptions.
I think probably it's some propaganda out there. We're in a space and time where truth or unique thought is not necessarily championed. And so, of course, you're going to see things mainstream that are like, oh, blogs are this or that. So you're inspiring me to revisit that within my own website because I used to have one when I first launched my website a couple years ago, and I called it Streams of Consciousness. And so they weren't these well-researched things that you're saying that you're talking about. It was just like, oh, my dog eats rabbit poop. Like I literally, that was a blog post one day.
My dog does that too.
Yeah, anyway. So for me, it was nice because it bumped up SEO, of course, and people were coming to read my blog just because it was kind of funny and whatever. So you're inspiring me now to maybe revisit that. I have a newsletter that goes out weekly on LinkedIn, and I have a lot of subscribers, and I'm like, that's interesting. But now it's on LinkedIn. It's not in my ecosystem. So anyway.
I do find with LinkedIn that it does a little less of the censoring than other platforms do. I can't believe that it's now suppressing the word women or
Yeah.
woman. That's horrific.
Yeah.
I've been speaking out about that forever as far as women's health. Man, it's frustrating.
To
But
have to use special characters for the word woman gets me real worked up.
no,
So I
that's
try.
infuriating. My goodness, like
Female is also.
really?
So yeah, it's like any words other than like cis het white man is really like a DEI word anymore. So we digress. We're working through it. Getting from an energetic standpoint, everything is an energetic balance, and the imbalanced, wounded, or toxic masculine is going to continue getting louder and stronger as the more balanced divine feminine goddess steps in, which we're seeing more and more of. So that's how I meet it. So it's like, okay, I understand why they're doing what they're doing. I don't like it, but it's like, okay, that's an invitation for me to stand stronger in my light and what I know to be true about where we're headed as a human race. So anyway,
I love that. I mean, preaching to the choir on that one.
yeah. So, oh my gosh. So, Amy, as we start to wind down, what would you say to people who are either just getting started with email or we've talked about a ton of stuff today, just in a very short amount of time, like service, marketing, consent, deliverability, like even some of these metrics, people are like, what are you talking about? What would you say to someone who's just getting started and it feels overwhelming, especially after all that, like two experts like you and me, we can talk all the day about it, but they're like, what? And it's easier just to like not do it.
Yeah, I would really hate for that to happen, obviously. There's nothing worse than feeling overwhelmed and letting that stop you from taking action. The main thing would be create something of value, start building your list. Get people to sign up for your lead magnet, whatever that may be, and start building your list. little by little by little by little. It doesn't have to be thousands of people. I mean, there are people with, a couple of hundred people on their list that are still making great sales. And honestly, choose a time, Mondays at 8 a.m. or whatever time works for you, and email at that same time. And there's something psychologically that happens where people are like, they might not read it right at Monday at 8 a.m., but they know to look, they know to look for you. Even if they couldn't tell you, like, oh, Amy emails me on Mondays at 8 a.m., there's something that happens when you're consistent at the same time once a week, or maybe twice a month if you're feeling a little overwhelmed. But that consistency, that'll get you 50% of the way there. And I think that's true with a lot of online marketing actions, but I find that especially so with email. So don't be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just start and be consistent. Do it for 6 months, do it for a year, and you're going to be just amazed at the asset that you've built. There's no stronger asset than your email list.
Mhm. That's awesome. I love what you're saying about consistency is so key as marketers. We've all been in the conversations with anyone other than marketing that's like, why does it matter that we have fonts and colors? Well, the look and feel and the consistency matters, especially when, again, from my corporate experience, the slightest thing can be off in your branding, and that's likely someone that's the fraudster. So it's just consistency, making sure that it all matches, that people know what to expect from you without feeling beholden. That's another conversation. Cool. Amy, where can we find you and support your work?
My website is Griffin, Griffin copy.com. And I am on LinkedIn, but I'm not on any other social platforms because I just said enough.
Yeah, I did too. And then now I'm back on some of them, but closing remarks as we wrap up.
This has been a lot of fun. I hope that we didn't bore your people too much. Geeking out about email. Not many people are too excited to do that, but for me, this was very enjoyable, and I hope that everybody got inspired and going out and starting their list and isn't intimidated.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.